One must adapt. Yeah. You lose an arm or a leg, you lose a mother or father, or your wife or husband, and one must adapt. The thing is, that contained in the Lord is everything that we're missing, He has in abundance, whether it's a limb, a human, childhood, old age, infirmity. Again, it all has to come from there. He's got to be the source. I had to learn this the hard way, that He is my mother and my father, and He's my source for love. That is, Yahweh Elohim, Creator, one God, Yeshua, Jesus, the one. There's only just one thing. And without that, you can't break soul ties, because, negative soul ties, and we all have had them over the years, and go free, that is, have energy, be happy, not when there's a hook in you by any negative soul tie, there is an opening, there's a feeling of dread, like a feeling the shoe will drop, a feeling of being bummed out, a feeling of being negative, not having any energy, a feeling of infirmity, a feeling of hopelessness. That's what a negative soul tie will do. And that's a connection to anybody that you have that is negative, that is being used as a demonic portal, because the demons just want to basically get in and make you feel bad, or if you like, negative spirits, whatever you want to call it, that they just reside in sinful activity, in negative behaviors that we do, open up these portals, whether it's, and we all do them. The problem is I think if we knew more of the connection, the result. For example, if you have, say, people that go out and have sex, all right? Seems like a perfectly natural thing. They go on a date, they have sex. They go on a date, they have sex. Not anything necessarily tawdry. Let's say it's very respectful. But it's not a serious relationship. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like just getting together and sharing fluids or whatever. Getting together and getting each other off or whatever. But there's a... Really, it just turns into kind of a form of mutual masturbation. All right? So, and it's an unhealthy relationship in the sense that there is no future for it. There's no children to come from it. There's no fruit that would be coming from it. It would just be a way of eliminating lust through the free will of another person. But here's what happens. You see, I'd hate to be the party pooper here, but here's what happens. Now, I'm not judging you. I do enough stuff that if you do all the stuff I did, you'd be like, why do I even listen to this guy? If you knew all the thoughts that went through my head, you'd say, we would all disappoint each other. That's why I have to go to the source. See, my thing with sin is this. I don't like it when I do it, and I don't like it when it's institutionalized or when it's done to innocent victims. But mainly, I loathe myself when I do it, not because I just want to hate myself, but because I've opened up a portal for self-hatred, being a weakness of mine, being self-critical. Okay, so that portal is opened by some illicit activity. Now, let's say let's get back to the, young people and sex. Oh, they're just young people walking on the beach and having sex. What's wrong with that? And okay, fine. You say it's not a sin. It's not a, that's all this archaic thinking and it's all wrong. But here's what happens. A soul tie is formed. And any deliverance minister that's been down through the battles with all this will tell you the exact same thing. They'll tell you the exact same thing. A soul tie is formed, whether you like it or not, And a connection, a portal is open, whether you like it or not. And it also puts a bond or bondage on both people. In other words, something unrelated bad starts happening to you, and you just can't figure it out. The relationship eventually breaks up, being superficial anyway, but you're left with something. That soul tie that was formed with that anonymous person remains until it's cut. And if that person gets into darkness or trouble, all those troubles come through that soul tie to you. So what's happened is someone used another person to put a hook in you that they can manipulate you. And usually the manipulation is always the same. Self-loathing justifies negative self-destructive behavior, leads to, a sense of failing, getting fired from a job, and, using that as an excuse to go get drunk and then score drugs and go gambling or whatever. It rolls, okay? It rolls. And it's hard to believe that from a little trickle, just a little, no pun intended, but from a little tiny thing like having sex with someone, just, normal recreational sex, how that could turn into a waterfall of crap in one's life, a flood destroying everything in its wake. How it starts with just a little drip, 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 trickle, and then becomes this big flood, or becomes Niagara Falls or whatever. And that's the same thing that happens with with everyone. And that's why, because I see that connection, I need to keep continually praying that the Lord take away sinful patterns from me. Things that I might not be aware of, and things that I am aware of. Like, I know it's wrong to get angry and scream and cuss. Okay, I know it's wrong to get drunk. I know it's wrong to not honor our bodies as temples. I know it's wrong to have negative self-defeating thoughts when you could just put your focus on the Lord. See what I mean? I know that a lot of these things that I've fallen into from time to time, I know that they're wrong. I know, there's awful things. I know that people that have bondage with, like, say, pornography and things like that, that's just a huge portal. And what happens is, it may not affect you then, but the result of the pornographic, the witches in witchcraft, they use the orgasm to further their power, to get power. There's power in it. So when you put that towards something negative, like pornography, there's a criminal enterprise upon the earth. It steals people's innocence. It hurts a lot of people. You open up, that whole criminal enterprise, that whole dark underbelly owns you. You might go on in your day and feel like everything's fine. Who's going to know? You were there 5 minutes. And then on to the rest of the day, no big deal. But then you're infirm, you're this, you're that, you're drunk, you're unlucky, you're fired. All these seemingly unrelated things start happening in your life. And that's why I think we need to attack sin and crucify the flesh, because the unintended consequences are the thing that kills you. It's not that you're being a prude. No, I'm having a little petting with my girlfriend, but I'm sorry, I can't go any further. What are you, gay? No, I just am not suicidal. Oh, well, thanks a lot. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And if someone's like that, look, young men, young guys, you're better off without that kind of thing in your life. That if you don't, it's always the guy trying to get the girl to put out, right? When you're, in your 20s or whatever, and then, or your teens or whatever it is. But when there's a guy that won't put out, oh boy, reputation spreads fast. This is like a baby, a prude, some kind of a weirdo, like a pervert. this guy, and then, he can eventually be shunned from the community of cool people because he's not conforming to what a male should be at that age, which is running and gunning, looking for skirts and looking to score, right? If you're heterosexual. I mean, if you don't have that attitude, then, there's something wrong with you. And if you reject sex from a pretty girl because you don't want soul ties formed and you don't want to hurt that person and yourself and have unintended consequences the following week of things that seem unrelated but are happening to you that destroy your life, you find out, you recognize that connection, so you say, honey, I really think you're cool. Well, honey, you wouldn't say that. That's like an old person's, how would you say it? Babe. Babe, hey, baby, I really think you're hot, but I just, it's not going to happen because I don't want to hurt you. Of course, you can make a lot of jokes off that, but I don't want to hurt me either. I don't want you to be insulted. Mm-hmm. You mean, see, when a woman throws herself at a guy and he rejects the free sex, that's a woman scorned. That woman will then try to kill you. So you see that right there, you get persecution. But if you understand the connection between soul tie and life destruction, and you have like a path you want to go on, you're going to shut up all those soul ties. You're going to cut those soul ties. You're going to shut those portals. We're like portals. We're like multidimensional interfaces that they in the spirit world can't get in here. The only way they can get in is to come into the interface, us, then try to take over, and then have us ruin our lives, but really a demon has taken over and is doing it, and we're kind of held hostage. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's like most of humanity. Most of humanity is unfortunately like that, save for the ones who, and the reason why is because they don't teach sin is sin. They don't teach that the reason the Lord warns about it in the Bible is to help people not suffer, because sin is suffering. Any sin leads to suffering. I could swear and scream at my wife and cuss, and I have, and I'm sorry, and call her an effing this and that, and apologize, but you see, I still have opened up something that's going to come back to bite me later. So I have to be sober and vigilant to guard against that, or if there's something that's making me angry, it needs to be discussed and cleared between us so that we don't get into that again, because that barking leads to another event that comes back on me, seemingly unrelated, like being bummed out for the day for no reason. And I can trace that right back to a sin that I committed, and the reaping and sowing. And I contend that since the Lord God Father is the source of all happiness, and in my life, He's my mother and father, He made up for all this love I did not get. That, what a fool believes he sees. I thought I had it, but didn't. I wanted it, but was refused. It may seem like a small thing, but, basically the only thing I know of the only thing that's reserved for, misfits like me is hatred out in certain circles of shame in society. Because, see, society, high society, mid-society, kind of upper-class society, kind of upper middle, even societies are basically mobs, and they are psychopathic, and they are basically have norms and mores. Anything that doesn't conform is cast out, or if you like, the word is hate or hated. And some of us are just born different, And, you know, we experience hatred from a very early age. But in that instance, my source for the healing on that is my Father loves me enough for everybody. A lot of time when people are abused, they go out, especially trauma-based abuse or mind control abuse victims, like most of the prodigies you see are trauma-based abuse to get them to become geniuses at like music or something like that. So they want to go make the whole world love them because of the abuse or those soul ties that were formed cause them to go out and do anything, and then they lose themselves. I mean, I think Amy Winehouse was really a pretty good example, and then died at 27, that magic number 27, and just when her talent was starting to bud, because, you know, there was something wrong. We saw the sowing, we saw the reaping, but we didn't see the sowing. We didn't see what happened. It's up to each one of us to clear when I'm abused or tortured or persecuted. I need to clear that, my feelings about it. I have to have confidence over it so that I automatically forgive it, because if I've forgotten it, I've forgiven it. If it's not in my body, because with me, these past traumas reside in my body and do bad things to the body. It happens to a lot of people. I have to forgive in order to keep walking. I can't just say I forgive you. It's like saying I love you. It's meaningless. There's no way I can demonstrate to a perpetrator that I forgive him or her, because they will just keep coming and kill me. So, how do I do this? I put my focus on the Lord, on Jesus, and He takes it off of me and depersonalizes it, so I do not take it personally. And when I don't take it personally, when I don't take an attack personally, it's just coming from, it's their problem, not mine. And when I really own that, then the forgiveness is complete. The trauma is gone, because any soul tie that was formed through abuse, which does happen. I mean, someone can torture you. You can develop Stockholm syndrome. And then there's a soul tie. Even though they kidnapped you and supposedly, you know, they tortured you, and then you were traumatized, and years later, your life is in the dumps completely, because there's a soul tie that hasn't been cut between your abuser and you. And the source I have found for cutting those soul ties and clearing those traumas, and the work of forgiveness is what it's... See, the work of forgiveness is a science. There's a scientific principle there, given the physics we have. We have a physics in the works that says we reap what we sow. So we have hatred of a personal nature toward anyone, we will be hated somewhere else. If we have lack of forgiveness for anyone who hurt us and we want vengeance, out of the blue, someone will attack us again in vengeance, because, say, you're a lamb rather than one of them. And that attack, you'll say, I wasn't doing anything. I'm taking the persecution for Jesus, and I'm walking this path, and that's why it's happening, when it's really happening because there's another thing that needed to be... I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that maybe there's a case where there was a soul tie that could have been cut, a trauma could have been cleared. And the way you do that is you put the entire focus on... See, I had to learn this by transferring all the pain, trauma, whatever, of you know, my parents and me. I guess we were in a war. I've only just now discovered that. And transferring all the love I didn't get, you know, at 5, at 6, at 7, you know, whatever, all that to Father God, and He fills in the blanks. And then, you know, I'm able to see the thing. Okay, the hatred, no love, games, whatever. I see the whole thing. It's like, that's typical idiots. And I cut the soul ties of mother and father because I don't have any. The one I have is Father. You don't honor your mother and father by letting them abuse you or try to kill you. You honor them by going to the Lord and saying, Lord, what do I do? And he said to me, the scriptures, if your mother and father forsake you, I will never forsake you. And transferred it and cut all ties and cut all soul ties and felt like a brand new newborn. But I had all the love filled in, all the good regard, all the things that I had complained about until finally my life of my past that I was so traumatized about and carrying it around and unable to shed it, being a crippled victim. And the people that know me closely, they know that about me. You know, it's a horrible burden. That burden has recently been taken off of me by the Lord. I guess at his timing. Now it's an abstraction, you know, at best. In fact, my entire past now, everything, which I kept a diary in my head of my past based on the traumas I had, you know, the murder attempts. Those are the things that disturb me the most because I never did anything to anyone to provoke that. I never stole anything. I never, never did anything really like that. That would provoke someone to kill. It was just a policy of the elites, I suppose, that if you have a child that's not a Satanist, then, you know, they're on the altar and the blood is being drank. That's as insane as that sounds. It's literally true. And I had a real problem with it. I could not deal mentally with that. I could not deal mentally with how the wealth was made in my family, for example. I couldn't deal with that. I just couldn't deal. I could never have done those things. If you had just had me in a normal family somewhere, I'd just be nothing. I would just be poor because I don't have any ambition like that. I mean, you say, well, you sold out. And it's like, well, what does that mean, sell out? Let me explain something to you. The people that are the ultra wealthy murder other people or have them killed. In our case. In my case, it's having them killed by the mafia. Okay? That's a lot of negative. That's a big curse on my family. Do you know in my own family, every single one is dead except for my mother? It's a curse that happened because of how my grandfather wanted he wanted to, be somebody. It's a long story. I should really write a book about it because it's fascinating and it's huge in dealing with big superstars and names you'd all recognize. But I remember this one time I heard this radio show and a guy had written a book about Mickey Cohen, famous mobster. Now, my past deals with famous people. Isn't that weird? The odds on my surviving all that is, can you go up against the mafia and survive? I don't think I could. Anyway, so Mickey Cohen, a mobster and a hitman, he's a famous hitman. There's a book written, and this famous broadcaster guy was interviewing him, and they talked about, someone they wouldn't mention the name. They were afraid to mention the name. Called him the insurance man. Well, I was so disturbed when I heard this interview that I turned white as a ghost. I had no idea that there could be that level of, like, meeting in a restaurant like Perino's and then deciding who gets hit and things like. I just, but not wanting to be seen in public with a Mickey Cohen because you don't want to be seen with mobsters when you're high society, which was all fake too. But wouldn't mention his name. No, don't mention that. No, shh, don't. Still, even after his death in 1982, that my grandfather, that is, they were still afraid to say his name for fear that they would be killed. And so that freaked me out. So I went on the phone to my mom. I called her. I said, I just heard this. Is this really, did Grandpa really, is this really? And her reaction was this. Oh, so there's no Santa Claus. Grow up. Where do you think money comes from? Grows on trees? And that was it. And honestly, I kind of flipped out. I couldn't deal. I couldn't hear that. I went into denial. And they basically all controlled me and patted me on the head. Because I could not accept that. Well, then that my initial thing when I was a kid was true. I put up pictures of Martin Luther King and put up pictures on. I was a collage artist as a kid, and I still am. And music is kind of like a collage, right? It's similar. That's how I think. And if I didn't do sonic arts, I would do collage work. That's my thing. So I had a collage going on. My whole wall was a collage. I just loved to cut things out, put them on the wall. I had Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and then statements like, who killed them, or we killed them, or and all kinds of kind of stuff. You might say that I was radically political, but I wasn't. I was just. These are just my observations, And I remember that my parents had ripped that off the wall. And trying to teach me this idea that you will not be a radical. You won't be, And so it's been hell, really, absolute hell. To realize that, and the reputation that my grandfather had of charitable, he gave away all the money that he earned, and he felt very guilty at the end of his life, and he gave everything to charity pretty much. He didn't, there are people there that they think there's some millions of dollars somewhere. There isn't. He gave it all away, and that really upset my parents, but I understand why he did it. Now, I mean, I had to kind of embrace all this and realize that the suffering that I went through was the sins of the fathers being visited upon. The reason my dad got murdered, and I say murder, and I know who did it, and it's because of this curse. The idea of, spilling blood to make your money, all right? Now you see why I've been against this Satan. People, oh, come on, and they try to blame you for not joining in a little innocent ritual somewhere. See, and in my mind, I'm seeing blood running like the blood in the elevator in The Shining. That's all I see, and the people in The Shining all represent the people. They all are like that, all perverts and murderers, liars, pedophiles, thieves. All of them, and they all were high society with their tuxedos, but they really weren't that. That was just a facade. It really was brutal underneath those limousines and all that glitters. There's piles of bodies under all that to make that happen. And then widening all this, I understand then the way the world works, because that's just a microcosm of Washington, Hollywood, that is. L.A., Hollywood. In my case, that was my grandfather's thing, that was to insure movies and movie studios. So they were all in bed together. There was all just, and you wonder from looking at it from the outside how they got that way. Well, to get into that club, you got to be willing to spill blood. And that's just, it's a horrible thing to have to think of. Nobody wants to talk about that in polite society. That kids coming up have to do dirty work, and then eventually they get to be made men. There's a made man thing in the waspy kind of upper society, like in the Jewish society, and in the Italian mafia, but it's in all these groups. And they're all connected through Freemasonry. And they all have slaves. Little girls and boys who are their slaves, and couriers. And people kept in apartments and places who are just there to be activated when, you know, all of that is that we've all talked about over all the years and all the conspiracies. That's all. I was intimately aware of all that, how people get sacrificed just because just if they need one and there's a secretary here, go take her. Throw her off the cliff. It's going to be a great ceremony tonight. And Bohemian Club and all that, and that's all tied in with all this stuff. Military-industrial complex, you know, bombs, drones. I couldn't accept it all that, you know, like Obama's a murderer. I just, you know, these are satanic sacrifices. You know, the abortion, I just couldn't, I mean, you keep me locked up with a shrink, being a good little boy, walking up and down the hall, weaving baskets for the rest of my life, because I can't hack it. I can't grow up. I cannot accept it. And that was basically my life. I just couldn't. And even today, I just barely can. But you see, I made that shift. I realized I didn't have any parents. I didn't have any you know, I realized I had psychopaths. I had, you know, I was born in that situation. And when the Lord took me over, and I've known for years about, if your mother and father forsake you, I will never forsake you. I've known that. But somehow I was unable to heal because I was unable to really, you know, get to the point of knowing, look, they don't love you. Never did. Don't understand you, don't love you, don't want you, just soon kill you. Yes, they want you dead. That's right. They want you dead. That's right. It's just, that's the society. It's just like that. That's it. Wow. And they don't apologize, even to this day. You know, it took me confronting my own mother, confronting all this, you know, labeling, you know, the whole laundry list of stuff. No denial. There was no denial of any of it, of course. But I needed to do that in front of my daughter, my wife. And then and then it was over. And then that soul tie was cut, because there is no future for me. You see, that world, it's not just a soul tie with, you know, mother or father or a friend. I've soul tied with old friends who try to lure me into, you know, a hunting trip, a surfing trip, these and that. And the idea there is to bump me off for the group. And I knew that. I could see that. And I said, you know, I'm not interested in that today, if you don't mind. But then understanding this guy that calls me, he's my assassin, and that's what he wants. I just couldn't get my mind around. Can you get your mind around? A childhood friend wants you to come on out so they can kill you, you know, and then, you know, because that would boost him in real estate, you know. Oh, boy. I've said a mouthful. I think I'm going to publish this. Yesterday's did not get published. Too much personal information. So now we have... Well, the point I'm trying to make on these soul ties is, when I finally acknowledged it was that bad, when I could finally sit and stand and go, you know what, it is what it is. It took me 57 years to be able to accept. Intellectually, you know, I've been on shows and I've said all this stuff, but I couldn't really, my little child inside, the emotions couldn't accept it. People could be that evil. And justify it. Well, how do you think we have a roof over your head? How do you think there's food on the table? How do you think, you know, and there's all that goes on, and there's all this guilt that how dare you say anything against. This is how we live. Yeah, but I thought, like in the movies, the criminals were the guys, like the mafia was really bad over there, and, you know, of other people. I didn't think they were like, you could just apply this to all wealthy families. No wonder there's an Occupy Wall Street movement. I mean, people know that. If people knew what I have seen, I mean, really, they've heard about it on the newspaper, you know, bits and pieces, but seen that the whole thing, I don't care whether it's Fox Studios or MGM or, you know, these are the ones who were around in those days, Paramount, you know, all built on blood. I mean, in the end of the day, if you could see everything behind the scenes that went into it, you'd see you'd see how it works. I could see all that at 16 and 17, which is why I had the trouble then. And they discredited me by putting me in a loony bin with shrinks and all that, but that was really to shut me up from blathering on about what I had seen. And then finally to brainwash me to tell me that I must have been mistaken. You know, there's a huge machine involved in keeping all that quiet. And now you've got things like Scientology involved, and you've got, the Masons involved, and LA, for battle for power, for turf power. The major studios. I think all these actors and actresses are mind control slaves. I think every one of them is. Like a program, you turn it on, you turn it off. It's just a money-making machine. You know, and how they become actors? Because when they were little kids, they were traumatized through traumatized ritual abuse. You mean the whole thing is like that? Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, here's what we do. The Lord's already on top of all this. My healing came when I could embrace it all, accept that it's all there, accept it, yes, that it really is that. Yep, that's what they do, and it's every time, and you can count on it like a clock. You know? Just like a Swiss watch. It's going to happen. And they're going to do it. And they're going to do it to their kids and anyone they perceive as enemy and anyone who doesn't conform. You bet that's what they do. No, in high school they don't kill you, but, well, some do. Leading a kid to suicide for not conforming. That's almost a cliche, and that's across the board in every high school. We are not in control of our own lives. In other words, something else has control of all these people's lives, including, there's no sovereign president. We have no president here. These are all just assigned roles. These are acting jobs. There's something else behind the scenes pulling all the levers. And I've seen those. And then when you see those and you don't accept it, no, here's the response that they wanted. Okay, you see, you can't fight. It's huge. It's the whole world. It's huge. So what are you going to do? I'm going to fight it. No, that's the wrong response. That's going to kill you. Fine. So on the surface, I'd say that, but then I'd be frightened and traumatized underneath. Okay, there's Niagara Falls. Are you going to just fling yourself over the falls to get down the river? Or are you going to go down the steps? But to go down the steps, 2 people have to die. Well, then I'll just go over the falls. Well, then you're going to get hurt. Okay, then don't complain when you're hurt. It's your choice. Grow up. But I don't want to kill. And that's basically how it is. If you want to know what the real low spark of high-heeled boys is, it's Satanism. That's what they're talking about. And it's murder. And that's how they get their wealth. And that's described even in the Steve Winwood, Jim Capaldi song with the lyric that goes, if you had a minute, if they gave you just a minute to breathe, really, it doesn't say they there, but if you had just 1 minute to breathe and they gave you one final wish, would you ask for something like another chance? Well, there it is. So I changed the lyric to be, if you had a minute to breathe and they gave you one final wish, would you worship Yeshua in the midst of them? Of course, you'd be a martyr then. It's they, T-H-E-Y, doing it. Who? High-heeled boy, wealthy, old boys club. So, would you take a bullet for Yeshua, for truth? Or would you ask for another chance and say, okay, I'll take another chance? And they'll put a gun in your hand and go say, well, there's our enemy. Go kill him and we'll let you in. Or suck my, or whatever. Something like that, right? One of those things. Suck my becomes kill that person, because if you want to move up, I guess this won't be the cocksuckers are never going to really move up. Okay, I'll just put it that way. There are further levels of initiation. And then, of course, there's all the becoming a made man, and then all the charity work, and then having all society go, oh, such a charitable man, let's build a statue. And all the blood that was spilled in the ground to make that one man a made man. To build that studio, to build that insurance company, you know, to build that society, swept under the rug, and all those pure hearts and people who just didn't agree with murder, lying, cheating, and stealing gone, and that blood crying up from the ground for the Lord's vengeance. And the Lord says, not yet, because I still have souls here that need to be saved. But in the end, I will come and bring total justice, and you will all rejoice, because I will avenge her on you. And how will I do it? Thus saith the Lord, I will destroy Babylon and kill everyone in it. But I will save my lambs. That's right. The Bible says the birds will eat the flesh of all the merchants and kings and queens and all their functionaries and employees and everyone attached, everyone connected to that Babylon system will be eaten by birds. And all of heaven will rejoice, because the Lord is finally, at long last, after thousands of years, done the full vengeance on it all, and then resurrected all of the ones slain to be restored in incorruptible bodies, fully conscious and set loose and set free. And hallelujah is the response. And the 24 elders throw their crowns into the throne, because none of us needs a crown. There's only one. So for that event to happen, maximum evil must be allowed to flourish on the earth. The spirit of Cain, of murder, in other words. Cain is a murderer. But the Lord said, you touch him, sevenfold on your head. You let Cain go. Why did he say that? People don't understand. Because the only way that you're going to have light is here. To manifest these things is you have to have opposites. Cain had to fully flourish. And I don't mean the literal descendants. I mean, the spirit of Cain was allowed to fully flourish and protected by Yahweh himself. Protected. Yes, these banks that you yell at, and these studios, and these conglomerates, these empires, these corporate greed, and all the stuff the Wall Street people are screaming about. Yes, I understand. You're not getting at the real root of the issue, though. It's all evil. Every last bit of it, and what they've done, when you sell out, you agree to look the other way on the evil. That's the first aspect of selling out, isn't it? Not let it traumatize you as it did me. A derelict is what I am. A loser. A fool, a baby who can't grow up. Because I couldn't. I'm sorry, and I'm not even going to apologize. I'm going to strike that. No, I'm not sorry. I would not and could not get my head around what that was all about out there. And, people tolerate, people that come up like mafia kids. We've all seen their testimonies. And, kids of mafia hitmen, that's nothing, actually. That's light. How about owning the entire LAPD? Owning the entire LA Police Department in 1948? Just go check out the movie LA Confidential. You get an idea what I was dealing with. And how it, but of course that's corruption in the police department. I mean, Los Angeles was a hotbed of corruption because of and the money came in, and the wealth, and the Vegas nearby, and the mob, and it all got really going. Anyway, yeah, we're talking the Italian mafia, Jewish mafia, WASP mafia, big business, studios, insurance companies, corporations like Boeing, military industrial complex, you name it, it's all connected. And nobody knows how to turn the damn thing off. And I'm saying it is a work of the Lord. He needs it to bring in his, I don't know why so much suffering has to go on, but he needs it to bring about his result. It all has a perfect patchwork symmetry that is more precise than the pyramid at Giza. Every single event is like, I've been shown it on a board, like on some sort of matrix board, and how I see how every event, no matter how small, fits without even that small kid praying over there in the corner. That is marked in too and has an effect. But then you start to, he's really been bringing me up and healing me, but to heal, I had to finally, grow up, which I avoided until 57 years old. I couldn't just, for me, my growing up meant accepting, even though intellectually I hadn't done many podcasts and so forth, accepting the truth. That's what it took. And then the Lord could heal me, because I couldn't accept the truth that, the basic truth I could not accept. And that prevented me from maturing in almost every area of my life. It affected every area of my life. Relationships, jobs, all kinds of things. Everything, affected everything in a negative way. That soul tie affected everything. I was not free. And though I have a lot of trauma and a lot of things I got to clean up, I am free today. And it's messy. But birth was given. And it's hard. Because when that umbilical cord is cut, it's a gaping wound. Or the Siamese twin cord, or when the Siamese twins are separated, there's a gaping wound there. Those things have to be cut, or you can't go on. Today, now, all that horror exists. It's becoming almost, may I say this? I don't think I'll be really needing to write any book about it, because we've all seen the movies. It's worse than the movies. But of course it is, because people couldn't handle the truth. The stuff I saw as a kid, people could not handle that. The idea is to traumatize your kids early, which they did, so that by the time they see the big picture, they're already under control and they will go with it. You start breaking them down at 3 and 4. And then you program them to be a prodigy or a rocket scientist or something, or famous in some way. And those are the people you see. No, Herman Cain's not in that group. No, Herman Cain is not one of them. You see, they cannot afford to have a guy like Herman Cain in Washington. He'd ruin everything. That's what you're seeing there. He's not one of them. That's the bottom line. You have both Republicans and Democrats trying to get rid of this guy, nip it in the bud, get it over with, because it would mean the end of their shit stem. It would mean the end of them. Even if he's got problems and he's a sinner, and he may be all those things, but he's not. He's not one of them, and that's the issue. Ron Paul isn't one of them either, and they're not worried about him. But those numbers of Cain, they've gotten the numbers down now from 24 down to 21. They're slowly pushing him down with these women. This is all a hit. It's a mafia hit. Done by Democrats and Republicans, done by Perry, done by that idiot Romney, and I will not vote for any of those people. I just soon see Barack Obama continue. I'm sick of it. I'm done with politics. I hate America anyway. What I hate about America, I hate what I've seen, and I was unable to say that. I went through my little patriotic phase. Listen, what I've seen is America. I've seen America. I've seen the top people and the top corporations and the top high society, the top politicians, the top thing, and I see what they do and I see how it works. It is Babylon. Don't think it's unique here. It's same as Japan, same as China, same as Europe. It's the same thing. It's uniform. It's conformity. It's all uniform. But if you knew what really went on, you just, I don't know, could you, if you were me, could you have adapted? I'm just curious. I know people that can't stand this podcast already have adapted, but I mean, could you really kill someone in order to live? Like consciously, accept, or something like that, in other words, to get money, would you really do that? Or be a kid in that situation, it's like, there's no temptation. It's like you either go along or, we have to kill you because we can't have a witness wandering around blathering his mouth. See, that's the reason they do that. But you understand, right? That's Washington, that's Hollywood, that's Beverly Hills, that's Park Avenue, that's, private aircraft, that's junkets, that's, the retreat to Bali, president's on, that's the way it all works, huh? That's the friends of Bill Clinton. Well, I knew an assassin that was a sniper in the Marines and became later on an assassin, and I don't, that's over now. I don't know. Just someone that, I guess it was part of the puzzle that, and when I was saying things like, these assassins have to, if they rig an airplane to go, they have to have videotape that goes into, that has to be turned in, and those videotapes are passed around at orgies. I had said that. In other words, the videotape of the trauma of the people going down in the plane, that few seconds, how they react, that causes them to have pop boners and want to have sex with each other. Man, woman, child, whatever, all melded together. With that on a video screen with some beautiful Bach or maybe Mozart on in the background with a little wine and cheese banquet afterwards. And he said, yeah, keep squawking. That's the only way they're not going to send someone like me after you. Because, I guess, I don't know. Dr. Stan, remember him? Wonderful man. He told him, the same thing. He had people that were guests, came on, spilled the beans about something about society, and then they quit doing shows, never heard from again. Disappeared. He thinks, eliminated. So that's real, and they have enforcers, and they have, police that rove around making sure everyone's on the same page, and no one's going to make a noise. No one's going to say anything, and we can all get along and get paid and have our families and food. It's like, your family is irrelevant. Kill your children. That's what they're going to do. They hate you. They're just putting up with you because you enable them. And then they're going to kill you. And they could care less. I know for a fact, because I had to learn this with my mother. I had to learn this with, Mommy Dearest and with father and uncle and other people and friends and extended family. I had to learn all this through torture and abuse. At a certain level, no disloyalty will be tolerated. Meaning, you can't have people that can't get... I remember my friend Todd, we were sitting at the beach, and he was freaked out at this beach club and having lunch. And he was being handled by this guy that later went on and produced movies. And he was on him, assigned to him. a class president type, right? The class president is the biggest Satanist, okay, but is the squeaky clean guy already seen as the, yeah, unbelievable. And he's handling him, and he looks at me, Todd looks at me, goes, do you know what's going on? Can you see what's happening? You know, do you realize what's happening around here? Do you realize where all these people are? Do you see? He's like that. And this other guy is sort of handling him, trying to keep him down. Next thing I hear, he's in an auto accident, and he dies. He just happens to drive his car one night off a cliff. After he was freaking out, because he just couldn't believe it. He, my friend, could not get his mind around, and we were like, grew up together, you know, like brothers. He couldn't get his mind around. He couldn't accept it, see? So they assigned someone. He flipped out when he finally saw what it was all about. The things we've described here, you know, at the exclusive beach club. He was freaking out, and they had to kind of, you know, corral him a little bit. They couldn't have him blathering and blabbing out. You see what's happening? You know, and he's. You have to understand there's a supernatural component to it in the sense that all that's working as well, and so there's all kinds of magic and things moving around, and you know, stuff that couldn't possibly be, and then on top of it, there's this seething murderous monster called society, and he's freaking out. He couldn't handle it when his eyes were finally open. He was an heir to a great fortune as well, by a known brand name and corporation. And his brother couldn't handle it either. A year older, we were also best friends. All three of us were kind of best friends. But anyway, he was suicided, and Todd was accidented, and I was institutionalized. I guess that's what happened. But I realize now I wasn't nuts. Of course. It was just too, plus you have all the spirits running around and all the, you know, the weird stuff happening that's, you know, supernatural and all that, and that's all working. And all the people are totally possessed. They're nodding and laughing. It's like Rosemary's Baby on acid, you know. And oh boy. And they're all worshiping the money, and they're all going to get money. All we have to do is get rid of you. Because that's what they all worship, money and power. Money, power, sex. PMS. Now, I know you all know that. You know, but see, for me, there was the lack of healing was when it all turned on me and I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't understand. You know, and I didn't understand no love but hatred, and I just couldn't believe that. But one day the Lord took it all and truly filled me with so much love, it would make up for 1,000 lifetimes of abuse. And then the strangest thing happened. All of it became like a dream, almost like, I mean, not a dream, like it didn't happen, but just irrelevant. Like, okay, so what? All right. It does not differ from the Bible, of the book of Ezekiel, in chapter 8, where he sees what the elites have to do to be elites, and he describes that they have to, you know, get in the circle with the queen and the sewing circles to be made, and then those people kill the righteous and boost the wrong people and to make them blossom into power. Okay, it's an implacable rule. Well, okay, so and the advice that was given was that growing up is learning what the world is like and learning to get along in it. Well, I couldn't do that. I just really couldn't do that. And I consider that a virtue, not a sin. I consider that a gift, not a curse. I consider that, had I died any number of times, I could have died, I would have been with the Father. Everything would be cool. See what I mean? It would have been all right. But the Lord, and this is where our prophecy comes in. You see, the things that I've revealed here must be, as they are, that were hidden in secret, shouted from the rooftops before, and then the end will come. I have this feeling. See, I can only go by direct revelation, I'm not I've got people I know that are very good at studying the scriptures and studying this and studying that, but with me it's more like, I get a direct thing. I understand we're in that final period of time. And so I'm not surprised that I'm awakening. See, and the purpose of this talk is that you're awake, that you're going through the same thing with your own issues. They're just as significant, even if they're not as Hollywood-esque. It doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. There's an awakening of the lambs, and a removal of these soul ties and all this stuff. There's this rapid acceleration in healing and wholeness, or being put into supernatural power for the purpose of going to and fro on the earth and for the Lord's vengeance, which is what this period of time is all about. And further, there's some other things I can't say. Yesterday I had to bury an audio because there are things I just can't say. But I thought I told you this before. I was done with personal testimony, but I gave it in terms of soul ties so you to understand, if there's no love, there's no love. Stop doing whatever you have to do to get it. See, with me, I try to get everyone to love me, to make up for the love I didn't get, and all that kind of, and it's all just wasting time. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm traumatized, and I'm doing bad things, and I'm hurting myself, and it's just this vicious cycle, all stemming from basic need unfulfilled, fulfilled by Yahweh completely and over the top fulfilled. He is my mother and my father. He's my friend. He's my guide. He's my all reliance on him. And then the next thing you know, boom, I was filled with light and filled with power, and then revealed to me what it's all about. But I can't say it now. Sorry. I want to take that next step because we're going away from personal testimony. Doesn't do anything. You have to understand that's just like saying I'm this person. I'm not this person. The person that went through all those things isn't even me. See, that's the thing that's hard for people to understand. It's not me. All that is irrelevant. How the world works, what the corporations are built on, and the blood crying up from the ground. Those are facts of life and in all communities, but it's irrelevant. That's not what's going on. That's being put in the rearview mirror forever. I forgive any. I hold no hostility in my heart toward anyone or anything. I am not traumatized. And I am to say this, that was rapid fire healing what happened to me. I boom, boom, boom. Hey, painful, but boom, 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 done. It's like my dental hygienist, it's like being tortured, but here's the thing. She didn't use any what do they use, like xylocaine or something kind of like so they clean your teeth and no, she goes in there, rips into it, scrapes it all off, bleed, whatever you're going to do, just a huge assault, and then you're out of there, and it's done, and you're squeaky clean, and there's no plaque, and you're all right. And I go back again and again. No bedside manner whatsoever. She just rips it, and doesn't care how much blood there, it doesn't care about it, just gets the job done, and you get out of there, and you heal quick. and it was over quick. Oh, death, where is thy sting? You know? There's no need of memoirs for me, because now, in looking back, I wanted to share this. The reason I can speak eloquently and to the point and without malice, the reason I could speak like that, because I don't hate any of them. And they're all caught up in something way more powerful than they are, that they cannot control. See what I mean? You need to have that revelation about politicians. They're caught up in something. Obama's caught up in stuff he does not comprehend when he sends his drones on personal assassination missions and things like that. And he's getting that, like his brother Thomas said, that bloodlust. He's way in over his head. And they all are. And it's not personal against any of the victims. It's just, this is the process by which it all happens. It's how the sausage is made, okay? And that's the way I see it, is making sausage. That's, gross. That's why I'm eating raw these days. But that's how I see it. And you can't look at it that way unless you're healed. You can't be at that state of grace unless you have cut soul ties. I don't want any connection to that, because that is something that, you don't control it, it controls you. So no, I don't, I absolutely don't hate any of them. They all played roles and they did what they did, and I've taken that an advisement, but my Lord is more powerful than all of them, because there is no way they even listen to these podcasts. Oh yeah, there are people that you'd be shocked to know sneak a listen in here and there. They're mainly just checking to see how I'm doing. They know all this already. They don't need to hear this. It's not like it's any revelation to them. They just want to see how I'm coping, having been through the thing I've been through, and just see if how I'm doing. They don't realize I'm their worst nightmare in a certain spiritual sense, but I'm also their best friend in another sense. I mean, see, I'm the worst nightmare if they don't want to repent. Because I am the end. I am the end of their system. And I'm not the only one who was put here on the planet at this time. And what I know about the future, I really can't reveal right now, but I know a few things that would just blow your mind completely, totally. But it won't have to be uttered, because you'll see it in your own life, I would say, beginning now. Because see, you too are experiencing the same healing. I could not cut these soul ties from the life of me over all these years. I had deliverance after deliverance and prayer and deliverance stuff, and it couldn't do it. Could not do it. People say, well, it's the will in you. You weren't ready to let it go. Oh, yes, I was. Oh, you got to be kidding me. No, absolutely, that's not the case. You see, my date of my emancipation was written in the stars before even humanity was upon the earth. Not 1 second later or sooner would it have happened. And on the board, on the Matrix board, I say Matrix, but I mean, I don't mean it like the Matrix movie, but it fits in a certain spot and it has a certain effect. It had to be that moment. August 21st, 2011. See, yeah, I don't forget that moment because that's my daughter's birthday. And a few months later, the wound stops bleeding. And the healing, then you're able to look at it. And then what happens to the past then, like people I think who've really faced all their abuse. And it takes courage because you have a fear thing, like it's like self-destruct program. If you get close to confronting it, you self-destruct before you get there, right? Oh yeah, that's all nasty. and that's all in every kid from our neck of the woods. But anyway, what happens is, what you realize, and this is the kicker of kickers, what I realized today about it all never really happened. You know, not only never happened, but becomes completely insignificant. It's not an issue. It's maybe an issue to, you know, the Geraldo's still running around trying to expose one thing and not reveal the whole thing. You know what I mean? They're all having all this trouble with it all. But with me, it's just really very simple. It didn't happen means that I don't believe in history. You know, I don't believe in the past because it doesn't exist. It is as much a dream as anything else. It's irrelevant is the point. What's happening now is relevant, but the past is irrelevant. So I clear it. Now, I have forgiven it. But I said I forgive it 1,000 billion times. I forgive my abuser. I forgive my abuser. I forgive the people that abused me and traumatized me on purpose and all that and did it for perverted reasons. I forgive it. I forgive it. I forgive it. And you know what? It didn't work because it still exists. See, forgiveness is when it's dead. It doesn't exist anymore. A sovereign person is intact in the now, right? I'm right here with you now. There isn't a part of me, you know, 30 years back somewhere. All that, without the forgiveness can only come, hence healing can only come, as a gift of God and a breaking, you know, in my case, it was a breaking of a generational curse, which had rendered my whole family dead. Yeah, they played with fire, they got burned. It would be a great story to write up, but you see, not for me because I don't care. You know, not for me because, see, I understand where we are prophetically. There isn't time. See, everything I have to do is in the now. I'm not really, I realized something about myself. How I wound up, where I wound up, to be brought into the world also had a certain mathematical signature. The Lord has shown me that everything is mathematic, every single thing. You know, little things like when Trish told me about if you take your age and the last two digits of the year you were born, that it comes out to be 111 for every person on earth. Talk about the 11s, since that's coming up. Yawn. Well, they're going to be praying about LA and closing the portal. It's already done. The portal has something. There's other stuff going on, but they're not dealing with that. But you know, if you're called to deal with that. Hoover Dam, fine. If they blow it up, fine. If they don't, fine. Not going to bother me. Nothing that they do surprises me. But I realize that it's all an illusion. In other words, this idea of, you know, that there's all the things, the lies that the people believe in about history, about America, about the military, about getting the dictators, about all this stuff. None of these people have a clue what it's all about. And they tell each other lie after lie, hoping that that's the agreed upon reality so they can sleep at night. You and I are so far beyond that, but we are beyond that for a purpose. So I was born in 54. and my age is 57. And if I had 54 and 57, it's 111. My daughter was born in 1990, and she's 21. So 90 and 21. Let me just double check that. Let's see, 90 and 21 is 90 and 21 equals 111. I just did the math in my head just to make sure. Okay, Trish is born in 57. 56. Oh, 56. You know, I've had that wrong. 56, and she's 55. Well, 6 and 5 is 11. And 5 and 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 111. Everything is mathematical. The date of the end is mathematical. Now, there's a lot, I can tell you this. No, I said some things yesterday I can't say, I'm not supposed to say. Things about the soul and things. It's stuff people want to know, but it's just, I can't do it yet. Nothing that would be threatening to anyone. Maybe it would be. To know there are different kinds of beings here. But anyway, everything is mathematical, including the time of the end. And, you know, they're trying to like poo-poo the Jewish thing and the Jews and the Torah and the feast dates and all. They're very important. These are mathematical. There's precise mathematical. If they look at the Mayan, when the Jewish calendar is far more accurate in the numbering system. And Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is a very important time, as some people know. See, it's Rosh Hashanah where this thing began. Now, I'm going to go back into September here to just... No, I'm not going to go study numbers and numerology and all that. No, I don't do that. That is not what I do. I go by direct revelation and empathic, prophetic, whatever. Okay, if we look back to Rosh Hashanah, is the 29th of September, 2011. Remember how the 28th of September was the end of something? They had the extinction level event, Comet Elenine, there was all that. Obama on the 28th went to the Denver airport on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. It was in Denver. And he's been back to Denver because it was revealed to me, just like other people have known this for years. You know, it seems logical. The language is no mistake, that old King James language of the dens and the rocks and the mountains being Denver Rocky Mountains. And Rosh Hashanah, people forget, is the day that, in other words, Obama's there on Rosh Hashanah. Things supposed to happen on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, that is the 28th, but they overlook the fact that Rosh Hashanah is the 29th, or the beginning of the countdown. And that's what I've been given. It's the beginning of what, okay, could be a personal countdown. You can, you know, it's not, if you go say, well, this is exactly it. I will say this. You know, back at the time where Brother Paul had sent me a video of these guys, and I don't know, I forget who they are, but they had done this really mathematically precise analysis of what they call the Daniel timeline. And, you know, I paid attention, and I was kind of getting irritated because I wasn't receiving it. You know what I mean? I wasn't getting it confirmed anyway. And I'm not even so sure what their dates were. I don't think it's exact, but I'm just saying is it kind of in the ballpark. And when I said I couldn't see beyond 2019, really the fall of 2018, Well, the fall of 2018, Rosh Hashanah happens again in 7 years. I find that to be fascinating. I'm not going to say any more about it because it's, you know, it's kind of blasphemous to start relying on dates and math. I'm just saying that the Lord has his math, and it's multidimensional math. And it's strange because things can shift and move, and then you look back and it was perfect, but it looked like it was fudged, but then it wasn't. So it's hard. You can't catch it because our position here is inaccurate. We're in a state of corruption. That's why. But you know, we get a glimpse like through a glass darkly. And Rosh Hashanah is very important. Very important, since I guess some people could say, well, the kickoff of real tribulation began on Rosh Hashanah 2011, the day after the Denver airport, the exercises, the military exercises, the drills of going underground, fall on us and hide us from the wrath of the Lamb on Rosh Hashanah 2011. Remember that? Very little fanfare out there. People are all kind of focused on this comet thing. They weren't looking at the exercises going on in Denver. Rocky Mountains, Rosh Hashanah. Anyway, if I can get over my trauma of that level of betrayal, of that level of evil, that level of just being in the pit of hell, you can. Someone in a Nazi concentration camp can. Richard Wurmbrand can. And kick my heels up and dance, you bet. If we can do that, oh death, where is thy sting? Hallelujah, the Lamb who is worthy, slain from the foundation of the world. The mathematics of this is implacable. The physics of it is implacable. The science of it is implacable. But it's the problem is because we're corrupt, we kind of find it and lose it and find it and lose it, like through a glass darkly, as Paul said. We see a glimpse of it and then it kind of goes away, and but you know, stay on the case, you scientist types, because your day is coming. So now I don't know the actual end, but if you know, I think that Daniel people were talking around 2018 or 16 to 18 in that period. I don't know, something to that effect. And then other people have, you know, people seem to be kind of getting. Look, I think what's important here is no matter what it means, if that's the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning or whatever, Rosh Hashanah 2011 represents a shift of consciousness for the entire world. Something ended, something began. What I contend is a countdown has begun. Rosh Hashanah 2011. A big event did happen, so big that they went to drill for the opening of the sixth seal in Denver on the 28th. Do you receive that revelation? More is becoming clear. There is a reason for this talk about soul ties and healing and sin. It has to do with this time period and being fit to deal. So he will heal all of you quickly, immediately. Lifelong things you've had, boom, gone for this purpose because you have a job to do. It's no longer called, there isn't tagging. You don't tag people, you know. I don't consciously tag people. When people attack, they tag themselves, don't they? It's not tagging now. Since Rosh Hashanah, the word is, going back to the Ezekiel word, it's marking. Not tagging, but marking. You don't consciously mark anyone for death. No, it's not tagging for repentance, it's marking for death. You don't mark them consciously. you are in an area, and those who, and then they really end up marking themselves, but they're marked with you being in a certain area, okay? That's just giving you a glimpse of, so you don't know why you're going to go to, say, Australia, or you don't know why you're going to go to China, you don't know, you're going to, or go into Chicago, or where suddenly you have to go over here. But see, this was all when I first really gave everything to the Lord. It was all divine appointments. I had to go here, go there. Wherever I went, there'd be this huge revelation. I mean, everything was completely to the Spirit. And there was none of this reality, the surface reality that we agree upon. All that mind control left. And there was just like, and it may not have made sense to anyone else, but it didn't really matter because we all know that they haven't a clue. So they're just blind, deaf, and dumb bumping into each other. This was the beginning of the awakening, Rosh Hashanah 2011, the great awakening of the whole earth. And I'm not surprised that along comes the counterfeit, Arab Spring, the Muslim Brotherhood, the whole rise of the New World Order, and George Soros all coming in at the same time. And then all those kind of people, the honchos of that movement, in Denver, Rosh Hashanah exercises, which is the opening of the sixth seal, which is the wrath of the Lamb. And the book of Revelation is a doppelganger. Then, you know what it's like when you cut an action scene in a movie. And this is what they used to do in the 70s. They were notorious for this, for cheapo, low-budget action films. So let's say a guy jumps off a building, okay? Or gets shot and falls off a building. They will show him getting shot and falling off. Then they back the film up from another angle, show him shot and falling off. Then they go to another angle. They'll milk it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Right, Trish? You know what I'm talking about? Backing the film up and showing or the car crash or a spectacular plane going into a building or something. They'll show it from this angle, that angle, this angle, that angle. You know, and they have to back up in time to show it again. Back up in time to show it from over here. Back up in time to show the reaction of the people over there. So you get one event that takes 2 seconds, and they get a couple minutes out of it, you know, or they get an extra minute out of it. That's the book of Revelation. The wrath of the Lamb has come, okay? And then it goes on to describe from various angles the wrath of the Lamb. From this angle, from that angle, from the trumpets, from the bowls, from the, you know what I mean, from the fall of Babylon, from the 2 witnesses. It's all of it is under the heading wrath of the Lamb and under the word vengeance. I'm so familiar with it, but I'm going to have to run back to my huge Bible right now and reread this. No, I don't have any personal testimony, and I don't have any need to write anything. Because you have to understand, it's irrelevant. But you don't survive a thing until you've forgiven it. You know what I mean? Until you move beyond it, you can't. If you're still traumatized, you're still. It's still happening to you. But don't fret. The time of your healing is the Lord's. You may have repeated the prayer 100,000 times, but there's a time of your healing. Here's where faith comes in. It's not the time for you to choose. You don't choose the time of your healing. Okay. So nice having a new Bible. What I like about this one is it doesn't have all those little indentations like A, B, C, D, E, you know, the different prophets thing on the side. Actually, that kind of weakened it. You know, I mean, that version they don't make that anymore. This is a different version. It's just the pages because I know where everything is, so I don't need a little guide to tell me. At this point, I know where everything is, but I mean, that's, yeah, out of my cold, dead hands, the Bible. I keep getting back to Revelation 18. The heading is God's vengeance. Now, this is the wrath of the Lamb. You see, this is again, what happened in the 6th seal, and we're going and describing it from different angles, okay? The fall of Babylon. But remember this. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. And vengeance is, you know, the list is, anything built on the blood of God's people, on this system we described and how it works, anything like that will be destroyed. The people that participated in it, the mighty people, the kings, all those people described in the opening of the seal are described again later on as being food for the birds. All of them, every last one. And then there are other things that are mysterious where it says, let him who is filthy be filthy still. He who is unholy be unholy still. He who is righteous be righteous still. That we're dealing with spiritual principalities and powers and things. In other words, those people that were made like that were made like that. Those people were made for the Lord were made for the Lord. And the Lord was going to do what he was going to do. Our will has very little to do with it. Anyway, the book of Revelation is a series of backup cuts in time where you back up to everything that happens in the opening of the sixth seal, which is the wrath of the Lamb seal. It's called wrath. The day of his wrath has come at the sixth seal. So it's very rapid. And you see it from different angles. Earth changes, plagues. The plague that will come is going to be a real mystery to them, but their sorcerers may discern it. The plague that will come to them is where you have 100,000 people dead for no known reason. And there's 100,000 here and 100,000 there and 100,000 there. And then there are survivors who they take into the labs to try to analyze why didn't they die? And they can't figure it out. And so they want to hide from the wrath of the Lamb because this thing is, there's no scientific basis for it whatsoever of this plague. That sort of thing, you see. That's the sort of thing. And the news media will try to cover it up, and then it will leak out. But see, then it'll happen again to make sure that no one can cover it up. And no one knows who's next. And there is no vaccine. I don't know when this will begin, but I've had a vision of it. No cause. No known cause. Just suddenly 100,000 people keel over and there's no answer. No science. No reason. And all eyes are going to have to go to heaven. And all eyes are going to have to look beyond this world and realize that they and their science and their commerce and everything that they held dear and their countries and their politicians and their athletes and all the things that they do was based on one big, fat, evil lie. And they all got swept up in it through the love of money, and then they couldn't control it. Can you feel your healing? Because see, here's what it looks like. Total quiet confidence or, a sense of well-being. No worries like you used to do. The past becomes like a dream. You know how you have a dream, but it doesn't traumatize you because it was a dream and it drifts. That's what healing looks like. This is you can't heal from like being a rape victim by going in. It can help talking to other people, like I've talked to other people about things. It helped to have someone there to talk to, but it doesn't heal me. Okay? A feeling that you had was being powerless, being a victim. And suddenly you feel proactive and you don't know why. And you don't know the difference, why today and from now on you're like that when you were like this. And you can't explain, well, how did that happen? I need to go do the healing work. It's like, no, you're healed. You're thinking human terms, process. You don't understand. That healing date had a certain date that was going to happen on that date, and then it did. And there's nothing you can do one way or the other about it anyway. I suppose recognize it happened and then be grateful. That's what you can do. But I mean, it's not like it's going to be taken away, because the gifts of God are given without repentance. The gifts are the gifts. The gift of healing is a gift. But you see, the whole world is sick, you understand. The whole world lives in delusion. Little pockets of mind control where they believe they have an agreed upon reality over here, an agreed upon reality over there, and it's all false. They're sick. They're psychologically unstable. They feel depressed, and they need the group and activities to keep them from being depressed. It's like one big mental hospital, They go to work and all they're doing is basket weaving, but they act like they're doing something important. And what they're doing is nothing. Nothing of any relevance. But to get to that place of understanding and peace is something that's given. It's called the peace that surpasses understanding, because you can't understand. It's the healing that surpasses understanding. And I have to add the most important thing. It's the power within you that surpasses your understanding, and you cannot explain it. You cannot explain it. You cannot explain it. Far more powerful than the strongholds of demonic activity through soul ties to sort of throw you around. Far, far in excess of anything satanic. Far, far in excess of anything the world has to throw at you. I'd say it's a pretty sweet deal. And no matter where you are in the timeline, whether you're old like me or you're young, I want you to know that age is irrelevant. You and I don't care if you're 35 and I'm 5,000, it doesn't matter. We are the same age, brother. I'm the same age as my daughter. We're the same age. We're no different. We're the same age. And I only see that in the spirit. Exact same age. This whole idea of aging and different ages and things, I mean, sure, there's wisdom for people who've hung around longer and gifts like that, but there's wisdom in the young. We're all the same age. There is no aging. There is no cumulative thing that's how they work here on earth. They want cumulative, and then you have your bona fides and your resume, and it's all cumulative. No, there's nothing. It's all irrelevant. There's no cumulative this or that. You are what you are. What you've always been, what you always will be. And you don't have an age, and neither do I. We are the same age. Each of us here at a different timeline to bring about the Lord's purpose, and that's what all creation is. And that purpose is going to be brought about whether we like it, agree with it, disagree with it, whatever we feel about it, doesn't matter. It's going to happen. Woe unto those who threw in with the collective, who did not heed the warning of the Bible from the very beginning in Proverbs 1, from the beginning of the prophets, who threw in with the world system early on, saying that was the only way they could make a living and so forth and so on, whatever other excuse they made, when, of course, it's all folly to begin with. But woe unto them who don't change, who know the train wreck is coming and their day is coming, and do nothing about it. The warning of the rich man and Lazarus. I could go on and on. The entire Bible seems to be an instruction manual warning against that one thing. And so what they try to do is trivialize God in the Bible and the whole thing, and trivialize Jesus and the blood of Christ, the only thing that really sets people free. And you can't trivialize God's Son. He is, whether you like it or not, he is the Son of God. He is, hence, God. He is the Word made flesh. He will not be ignored. I don't care whether you're from New Guinea or from, a Tibetan monastery, or the jungles of Africa, or the caverns under the Louvre. I don't care. It's the same. You understand the satanic forces, well, that couldn't be there without Yahweh. Whether you like it or not, the Jews were given the real calendar and the real clock and the math as a part of everything. And yeah, it's all corrupt and all, messed up and everything. It doesn't really matter. See, what matters in the end is that God's will be done whether you want to acknowledge it or not. You can't have the devil without God. And I never met anyone that didn't believe in the devil. I mean, when you finally got him pushed up against the wall, they go, okay. Yeah, it's too spooky for me. I don't like to talk about it, but yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just a simple guy. I just want to go to work, get my paycheck, go home. It's not that simple, brother. You're not here to go to work, get a paycheck, and come home. You don't have a home. Well, okay, enough. I love you, and I'm praying for you, and I will see you the next time. Yeah, you would have had more. Now, the new studio came, Reason 6, new virtual studio, and boy, it's so deep, the program for making music for production, that I've been sort of really kind of like in a learning curve with that, and updating the studio and different things, and got some podcasts planned, some interviews planned. The time of personal testimony for me is over. I said that before, but I mean, it's kind of wrapped up. It's not like it's just like it's disappearing. Like, how an old photograph disappears? It's exactly like that, the past. Because I've had traumas right through this last year, this last few months, but even that is fading like a fading photograph. I suppose that's what forgiveness looks like. See, anything unforgiven or any soul tie unbroken or any opening portal that you have through sin is going to, you see what I mean? It allows them to beat the holy you-know-what out of you. Literally take that Holy Spirit out of you. And that's your power, you see. The power to overcome any situation. That's taken away from you when you open it up with sin. But I know it's hard to stop sinning. It really is. It really is. It really is hard to stop sinning. But it's like healing. You see, the Lord just makes it so you just don't do it anymore. And it was on a clock that this day you would not have desire to do X, Y, or Z like you used to. So you don't have to fight those things. And that frees up what? Forgiveness, yeah, because everything has to be forgiven, meaning it has to be dealt with, and then it disappears. And if it doesn't disappear, it's not forgiven. If it's not like wiped, it's not forgiven. So there's a lot of people say they've done the work of forgiveness. You don't do the work of forgiveness. That's what I said. It's a gift. It's not something you can actually do. See, that's the kicker of that forgiveness thing. And anything unforgiven will be a soul tie to the trauma of what happened if you as a victim, and you'll keep reliving it in different ways, unhappiness over and over again, and trauma over and over again. See, the one that is set free doesn't go through trauma when they do something. You see what I mean? Because you're walking in the Spirit, so there is no trauma there. They can throw rocks at you, but there's no trauma as a result. People that have trauma or are traumatized again and again, they have negative soul ties, they have openings, and they have unforgiveness. And that's all working to hold them back. That's why they can go into a building, go to a gym, go to a market, go to a ball game or whatever, and suddenly they feel traumatized. I mean, this happened to me at the beginning of the summer. Or suddenly you're gang stalked. Gang stalking, like I say, is a supernatural thing. And we'll go into that another time. Bye.